agenda process.
How you would ask how items we put on the agenda?
Well, that's actually not what I was thinking about. I mean, what I was envisioning discussion taking place is what we put on the agenda as far as what's viewed and how we run the meetings.
Okay. Which pertains to the other one, that what documents are public, is that what you're talking about?
What's the other one?
There's two things on here, how items get on the agenda and what documents are available to the public prior to the meeting. I thought you wanted to talk about how items get on the
Well,
agenda.
two, and then basically how we're running the meeting as far as the agenda goes. So let's start with two, because that seems to be somewhat an issue in this meeting.
Okay.
And I know when that agenda was posted, there was nothing available to the public.
Mhm.
And there was a backlash from that.
Mhm.
And I just would like to find a comfortable medium where everybody's satisfied. So that's what I envisioned with this agenda item.
So, it's not so much how they get on the agenda, we'll
Well,
talk
we know how
about.
to do that.
Okay, I didn't know if we were revisiting something, so okay, so we're gonna talk about what documents are made available to the public prior to the
Documents are
meeting.
made available, and basically how the agenda is presented. To give you an example, for example, accounts payable and payroll. We have that separate on the treasurer's report. And the way that developed was, actually started with me, because I wouldn't approve financial statements, but I wanted to pay our bills, so I kept breaking it up into motions. I like that process, but I think it would be much more efficient if we moved the accounts payable and the payroll right to the consent agenda. Because any questions we have on accounts payable, we send a question to Barb or Dr. Berkman, and say, okay, that's what this bill is for. And generally, there's nothing else, so rather than go through the steps of getting a motion to deal with that, just throw in the consent agenda. If there's a problem, we're gonna pull it off anyways. These are routine things with very little discussion. So that was one issue. Now, as far as what the public is able to see prior to the meeting, that's up for discussion.
Well, I guess the question that I have, because I've heard mixed things about that, Dr. Berkemeyer, have you ever heard where they have all the information available?
It is a practice, in my experience, that is unique to Lemont Bromberek to post documents available for public view ahead of board meetings. Typically, a packet is delivered that includes items that are going to be available for discussion. So this has been unique. Colleagues that I've talked with, I mentioned it to Jeff Cohn, he is unfamiliar as well with any boards that have had a practice of posting packets publicly before there is an opportunity for the board to meet and hold their business meeting and discuss the items that are included as part of the packet.
Okay, I mean, isn't that the entire purpose for board docs to be able to do that? Or is it just so we can go online and get this stuff as opposed to a packet in the end?
You know, I'm sorry, I don't know what the original intent
I don't
was
either,
for
so I'm
going to
asking.
board docs. I don't know if any of the staff that's present tonight knows.
Case, a portion that I would know is the amount of time to create packets for board members.
So it's an efficiency issue.
Efficiency for board members' materials.
Paper
I
and
don't
delivery.
recall in the past, board packets could be, at least a half an inch or 3/4 of an inch of, preparation and dividers and separators, so there's really.
bound and
They were always being changed, they
state.
were always being edited.
Pardon?
They were always
Correct.
edited, it was a big, it
Correct.
was a burdensome process.
And delivered to each board member's home, so staff members,
So at that time, prior to board docs, when was this implemented?
board doc.
Yes. Anybody know?
When?
Yes.
4 years ago.
2007, end of the year, December
2007.
2007.
Okay, and did the board members have computers at the time too, or did that develop with?
No.
Yeah,
That came with the board docs.
I would think so, because you probably get,
did.
I'd say. Because otherwise it would be, different board members needed the materials while
Right.
during the meeting, so that was the purpose, to eliminate the packet, so,
And paper.
and paper,
Came with the
And
paper.
from my perspective,
right.
Well, I have a question. Kevin, you've been here the longest. I mean, so the way we've been doing it since I've been board member, basically all this stuff was on there. So was there, I'm trying to keep going with this conversation, was there a discussion ever about that information being there and being a problem for you guys, you know, the other board? And you never saw it as an issue?
Prior to board docs, prior to using board docs, the only thing that was available at board meetings was the simple agenda
An agenda.
to the public.
Well, when it went to board docs, obviously, was there a discussion that what was gonna be posted on there or what wasn't?
So
It's
once
just
you guys
what
went to
they
board
did.
docs, this is kind of the format, and then it's just.
Right. It's kind of hard to have this information out there and all of a sudden, there's nothing there. It didn't go over.
I guess the only thing I would say to that is, you know, I would say if we're not having a problem, and it really is a nice thing for the public, it's very transparent, they can see the stuff, and we're not, it never hurt the problem.
I guess the issue that I would have is that, you know, it's out there before, you know, before we've had any time to discuss it and approve it, and, you know, these draft copies get out there, and then there's a whole bunch of issues with draft copies getting out, oh, this is what you had before, and now this is what it is now, and, I mean, it would at least allow us the opportunity to have our meeting, see the content, and then the next day after the board meeting, release it or something.
But then at least people have a question, if they have questions, they can bring it up at that meeting.
They're
That's the only
educated,
thing that I
you're
would
right, they're
think.
educated.
You know, if you have people that look at something and maybe they have a quick comment, you know, they can get up in public comment and say, you know, I wanna know why this was done, or why it was done this way, or not understanding this, and maybe get it, you know.
I don't mind being held accountable, right?
The majority of information, fine. Some of the stuff I'd
Doesn't have,
like to see less of, some of the personal things. I mean, we post the names of resignations, you know, maybe that could be on the personal side, but at least the portion of the hires or the resignations, one resignation, as opposed to putting the name on there. So I'm comfortable with that, but taking all the other stuff off is, we're going backwards now.
I don't think so.
I mean, having stuff out there and then not having it out there till later isn't backwards.
No, I don't think so. I mean, remember, this is our meeting in the public, okay? So the public eventually does get the information, and they get the information. It's not like we're withholding the information from them, saying, we have an opportunity to talk about it before we release the information. And to your point, you know, they're gonna come and ask questions, well, what if we don't approve ourselves of it? And what's the point of having the public look at that if it wasn't something that we
They
approved
might
of?
have an idea that maybe we didn't have.
There's no harm in that, I mean, that's why I asked the question originally, is if there's a mistake in the numbers and somebody sees it beforehand, we correct it, or however, I don't see
yeah, it
harm.
doesn't bother me one way or
Yeah,
the other.
that's transparency, I think that's good, it's just, something it's good.
Streamlining is fine. I mean, if there's any financial information, we'll keep out there.
Doesn't bother me.
Does that cover what you wanted to talk about?
That's pretty much it.
Where do we sit with that anyways? How?
Well, that's why I asked for the item, because I was trying to find something in the middle, as opposed to one extreme versus the other. I mean, we started with all the information, then all of a sudden there was no information. We have to find something that we can all be comfortable with. And this is the only time we can talk about it at a meeting.
Can I ask a question, not being familiar with the practice? Has there been a distinction if there's an item that is informational versus something that is a discussion item and what is posted before the meeting? So for example, if we know that it's something that we're reporting on, that might be something that's available as opposed to something that requires just discussion and brainstorming. Is that what has been the practice to try to put all ideas out there
I think it
ahead
was
of
all out
time?
there. It was all out there ahead of time.
Well, I have to admit, when we were talking about strategic planning at my first meeting, I was surprised to see an article in the paper before I presented it, you know, so I'm curious about the practice.
Although I think that's nice, because then people who want to hear about it, they can come to the meeting and listen, you know, like what you're doing, I guess. Or, and they can get up in public comment and talk about it, if they wish.
All I'm asking for is the discussion, so we're not going from one extreme to the other. And I know Dr. Burke desires. The only way to do that is to discuss it at a meeting, so that's why I asked.
So can I ask, where are we standing now, or are we going back the other way, or are we in the middle?
I don't even know if that was, you know, an intentional thing, like, that might have been left over from the board docs issue we had with stuff being released and still being, kind of being in lockdown mode from what had happened before, so I don't think that was the intent, was to have nothing out there, because the board didn't, you know, approve anything like that, so I think, is that basically true or no?
I think it's beyond
Just for
work.
being safe,
Yeah.
we knew everything was.
Okay.
We're rebuilding our confidence.
So were they posted for this? Well, there wasn't really much.
There really is.
Discussion. Yeah.
So is the intent moving forward just to continue what we've done in the past and have it available? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, I didn't know that we changed anything.
I didn't
thought that
either,
we had
all I could see is
problems
our
with the
version.
security.
Well, I mean, we always refer back to what other districts do, and all other districts, you know, and if we're saying that
Well, we had a good
we're
process.
the
going.
1%
I think the other districts should do it too.
Yeah, we had a good process going, and I always thought it was a security issue, that we were in an interim phase of testing, making sure that we had that under control.
so the intent then is that the only thing that remains, something that doesn't get put out, is the closed session item that we would be.
Well, of course.
Right, that's the only issue.
Yeah, we don't
My
want
point, I just, like I said, my point was is that, you know, we're always bringing up, well, other districts, you know, you're always saying this, and you always say, well, this and,
Well, I think
Payless, you know, they do
it's
this
all
way,
irrelevant,
so-
I agree, we should think about what other
I've
people,
looked
but
at
this
other
one, I really
districts,
think
and
that
we have a lot of
maybe we have
information
something
out there
that's.
that they don't.
We're doing
One
it
example,
right.
I couldn't find a budget, put a tentative budget on some of the districts' websites, because they're not posting it.
Just for clarification also, then with consent agenda, that will include, financial reports, accounts
No,
payable,
no,
not
not the
financial
reports.
reports, just
Just the accounts
accounts
payable
payable and payroll.
and payroll. Now, the reports will stay separate item. And then as far as the reports, is everybody comfortable with the reports we have?
There's a lot of reports, my
That's-
question is, are they all being used?
I think to answer that, we should go through each one, just ask each other a question. Next time we're out there, let's go through them.
Next.
We'll go through
So
the next,
should we do that
we'll
next
go through the
workshop?
next regular scheduled board meeting and identify which ones will actually be,
Okay.
so maybe we can reduce some work on that part of it.
Because a lot of those reports are manually created.
Right.
So
Right.
each one takes time away from 1.4 business office employees.
Yes.
Okay, is that it on that?
It's enough for now.
Okay. The next item is